Next on Currents News, thousands of Catholics from Brooklyn and Queens turn out on the feast day of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Torches are blessed and carried to churches throughout the diocese. Major news involving cardinals close to the Pope. 3 are leaving their posts in his kitchen cabinet. 2 are under fire. Michael Cohen is being sentenced to prison. He was President Trump's personal lawyer. Plus, strengthening the faith among young people this Advent. Brooklyn Auxiliary Bishop James Massa is a top leader involved. The news starts right now. Excitement at Brooklyn's Co-Cathedral as torchbearers go out in honor of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. Today is Our Lady's feast day. Thousands of people from Brooklyn and Queens gathered at St. Joseph's Co-Cathedral for Mass before lighting torches and heading to their churches to keep the celebration going. Currents News' Emily Druby reports. Dancing, music, a mass performed in Spanish, a procession, and a long run in the cold weather. This all done as part of an annual pilgrimage for Our Lady of Guadalupe.
It's the least you could do for the Mother of God, you know?
The feast and pilgrimage held today pays honor to Our Lady of Guadalupe and her role in the conversion of Mexico from paganism to Christianity.
This is the day they celebrate that Mary appeared over 500 years ago now to a Mexican, Indian, and started this devotion to Our Lady of Guadalupe.
The festivities kicked off at the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph's with a noon mass given by Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio and con-celebrated by 20 other priests. Following mass, thousands of people, mostly Mexican Americans, poured into the streets while 36 torches were set ablaze for the torch run. Over 2,000 people took one of 5 routes back to participating churches in Brooklyn and in Queens.
These 36 parishes are going back to the parish with this torch, which means the light of Christ. So they came here not only to celebrate, but also to revive, to renew their faith, and to understand that we are like San Juan Diego, missionaries, that we have to bring the Word of God to everybody.
Together in groups, parishioners ran and or walked to one of 36 participating Catholic churches. Participant Danny Riera tells us he will be running for at least an hour to reach his Queens church, but that it's all worth it for his faith.
It was a wonderful thing that she appeared, and then as a sign of hope that I believe that everybody this year right now has been called, like, through God, through her.
Once pilgrims reach their churches, additional celebrations will occur well into the night. The 500-year-old tradition is celebrated all over the world. In Prospect Heights, Emily Druby, Currents News. Word tonight of a major shakeup at the Vatican. Pope Francis is removing 3 cardinals from his kitchen cabinet. 2 of the Red Hats have been implicated in the church's sexual abuse scandal. The 5-year terms of Australian George Pell and Javier Errázuriz of Chile have ended. The Pope writing to them and thanking them for their service. Errázuriz has been accused of covering up for predator priests, and Pell is being tried in his homeland on abuse allegations. Both clerics have denied wrongdoing. Also gone from the advisory panel, Congolese Cardinal Laurent Monsengwo. He served 5 years as well. And the Cardinals Council is very close to the Pope, frequently meeting with Francis on a wide variety of issues. Joining us now to discuss these really big changes and the future of the group known as the C9 is national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White. Christopher, thank you so much for being with us. Christopher, why has the Pope decided now to shake up this kitchen cabinet?
Well, Liz, if you think about it, the Pope has had this cabinet of advisors for over 5 years. I believe they've met 27 times as of their meeting. And so, I mean, an argument could be made, of course, that this is natural with any administration. There's shakeup, there's changes. But particularly when you sort of zoom in on Cardinals Errázuriz and Cardinals Pell, They all have their own issues back at home that really have kind of overshadowed the work that they're doing at the Vatican. And I think Pope Francis and his advisors probably thought it's time for a fresh start to bring in some new sort of lifeblood that perhaps doesn't sort of cast a shadow over the ongoing work of reform.
So having said that, should we expect some new replacements, or will the C9 become the C6?
Yeah, I mean, right now it is the C6, yeah. And the Pope has hinted in the past, as his spokesman Greg Burke, that new officials may be named. However, we don't know who these individuals will be. Presumably, the Pope would want to bring someone from Oceania, which Cardinal Pell sort of served that sort of geographic advisory role. Cardinal Ratzeris, of course, coming from Chile. So you would think that the most likely replacements would come from those areas of the world, but we don't know.
Now, this Council of Cardinals was created by Francis to help him bring change to the Vatican bureaucracy. What is the state of the so-called Vatican reform that we've talked so much about now that we're more than 5 years into the Pope's papacy?
Yeah. Longer than a presidential term,
yes,
right?
sir.
So, the state of the Vatican reform is that in the coming months, we've been promised a new sort of apostolic constitution, which is really what they've been working on for these 5 years. So in a sense, it's fair to say they're wrapping up what could be termed as sort of stage one of reform. And the cleanup of Vatican finances really being the centerpiece of that. Mm-hmm. So it's fair to say that in the coming months, a successor will be named for Cardinal Pell, whose term ends next August, mm-hmm. Which all eyes will be on that. And so the reform is, of course, ongoing.
Ongoing indeed. Thank you so much, Christopher. Tonight, President Trump's former private attorney is facing 3 years behind bars. Michael Cohen appearing in a New York court today. Kristen Holmes breaks down the charges.
Michael Cohen is going to prison. President Trump's former lawyer, friend, and fixer sentenced to 3 years for financial crimes and lying to Congress. While he refused to make a statement when leaving the courthouse, Cohen had a lot to say while inside, telling the judge, quote, "The president tweeted a statement calling me weak, and it was correct, but for a much different reason than he was implying. It was because, time and time again, I felt it was my duty to cover up his dirty deeds." In August, Cohen pleaded guilty to multiple criminal counts, including 2 campaign finance violations tied to payments made to women during the 2016 campaign, to stay silent about alleged sexual encounters with Trump.
This is an outrage. He deserves every day of the 36-month sentence that he will serve. Michael Cohen was sentenced today. Donald Trump is next.
Last month, he pleaded guilty to lying to Congress about how long discussions involving a proposed Trump Tower in Moscow had gone during the campaign. Cohen's sentence will be the longest, stemming from special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election. In Washington, Kristen Holmes, Currents News.
Tonight, growing concern that Washington could be getting a shutdown for Christmas. In the Oval Office yesterday, President Trump told Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer that he'd close the doors over the border wall.
If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay,
absolutely.
fair enough.
And
We
I am
disagree.
proud, and I'll
We
tell you
disagree.
what, I am proud to shut down the government for border security.
The president touted the importance of getting funding to build a border wall, but said he didn't want a shutdown. Today, Republican Louisiana Senator John Kennedy worried that closure is inevitable.
I think we're going to have a shutdown for 2 reasons. Number one, President Trump does not look to me like he was bluffing or is bluffing. And number two, I don't think Speaker Pelosi is going to agree to anything because she's worried about her speakership. As far as I'm concerned, if it's shut down, it's a pox on all of our houses. I don't know politically who's going to win or lose this. I do know that too many people are preoccupied with the politics of it. We ought to try to figure a way out of this. I'm just saying, based on what I've seen, and I could be wrong, and I hope I am, because a government shutdown would not serve the American people well. I don't think President Trump is bluffing, and I don't think Speaker Pelosi is going to give an inch because she wants to be speaker. And if I've learned anything up here, and I hate to say it, but most people in Washington care about their jobs first.
Pelosi's campaigning to become Speaker in January when Democrats take control of the House. CIA Director Gina Haspel briefed House leaders today on the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Following her appearance, the Foreign Affairs Committee is intending to hold hearings in early 2019 about how the Saudis handled Khashoggi's death and decide how this impacts U.S.-Saudi relations. The Trump administration is facing growing pressure about its response to the killing. Top U.S. law enforcement on Capitol Hill today to update lawmakers on the dangers posed by the Chinese hacking threat. The feds are calling it non-traditional espionage. Omar Jimenez has the latest.
From an ongoing trade war to the arrest of the chief financial officer for Chinese tech giant Huawei, tensions between the United States and China are as high as ever. The charged atmosphere stems in large part from Chinese cyber attacks against the U.S., the focus of a Senate Judiciary hearing on Capitol Hill Wednesday.
These cases are difficult. They take a long time. They involve sometimes sensitive intelligence.
Reportedly among the latest cases, a massive data breach at Marriott hotel chain Starwood. According to Marriott, 327 million people had sensitive information exposed, including names, phone numbers, and passport numbers. As part of a statement, Marriott said, quote, "We have no information about the cause of this incident, and we have not speculated about the identity of the attacker." But a new report in the New York Times says the breach has been traced to Chinese hackers working for the Ministry of State Security. China has denied any knowledge. The Department of Homeland Security says cases like this are the reason why DHS needs to work more closely with the private sector.
Are we limited at times with the variety, or because of the classification with some of the information we can provide? Yes, but please rest assured that we are leaning forward. We, the FBI, and my partners in government, we are leaning forward, in my opinion, in sharing more information from a counterintelligence end than I've ever seen us do before.
In Washington, Omar Jimenez, Currents News.
New information tonight about the gunman who killed 4 people inside a Catholic cathedral in Brazil. A church security video shows the individual, identified by police as Fernando Gandolfo, opening fire moments after midday mass ended yesterday at the Cathedral of Our Lady of Conception. At least 20 shots were fired, according to Father Amori Tomazzi, who celebrated the liturgy. The shooter killed himself at the altar. 7 other worshipers were wounded. Police are still working on a motive for the attack, but say Gandolfo had no criminal history. New video tonight showing the manhunt for a suspected terrorist who attacked a Christmas market in France. Passengers getting off a train in Strasbourg are ordered to put up their hands and be searched. The gunman opened fire on the city's holiday attraction. 2 people were killed, a dozen more wounded. Authorities have identified the attacker as Sharif Shakat, who was on a terror watch list. There's a lot more news headed your way. The Grand Army Plaza Christmas tree is lit. Well, sort of. Why the NYPD had to step in and help. A bishop from the Brooklyn Diocese is bringing the youth together to spread the faith this Advent season. More on the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe and what she means to family life. And do you have a story idea, something happening in your parish we should know about? We want to hear from you. Keep this email handy. News tips at thesalesmedia.org. We'll be right back. Tis the season for peace on earth and goodwill towards men, and a new movement in the Diocese of Brooklyn is building unity among Christians this Advent. Currents News' Tim Hoffman reports from the East Village, where a Brooklyn bishop is one of the top religious leaders taking part.
Building the faith among young Christians.
The atmosphere was amazing, joyful, celebratory, just a great night to gather together in friendship and prayer and faith.
Hundreds of Christians gathering at Immaculate Conception Church in the East Village. A new group called John 17 put the whole thing together. The name, John 17, refers to the chapter of the Gospel when Christ prayed for his believers to unite. Joseph Tosini started the movement 3 years ago.
The John 17 movement exists to inspire, develop, and display love and unity among all of his followers.
A top Christian leader there, Brooklyn Auxiliary Bishop James Massa, praising renewed dialogue.
We need something more relational, a way for leaders from the different Christian communities to come together share their faith, share their best practices in ministry.
One of the highlights, men and women locking arms, sharing the personal intentions they hold inside their hearts.
It's just really powerful, like being able to voice some of your deepest emotions with people that you may not even know, but like there's this bond because of our shared faith.
It was a very, very eye-opening experience.
The citywide gathering is a collaboration with the Archdiocese of New York's Young Adult Outreach Program.
We live in the greatest city in the world, and just knowing that we're going to be able to help others get to know Christ better and work together in that mission, not just Catholics but other Christian denominations, it's just a great opportunity for unity.
A time for unity as worshipers prepare for the birth of Christ. In the East Village, Tim Hoffman, Currents News.
To help grow the faith among young people, America's bishops are taking action, providing almost $10 million to boost youth ministry. The projects approved for funding include providing pastoral care and evangelization to thousands of farm workers, bringing seminarian education and formation, developing missionary presence in Kentucky, extending outreach ministries to youth, and providing missionary services and pastoral support internationally. The Diocese of Brooklyn's Christmas tree lighting was held last night at Grand Army Plaza. It's a staple of the holiday season, and while it had all the trappings of years past, this year's celebration took an unexpected turn.
You guys can back me up, you know the song, come on.
With their candles and candy canes,
Sleigh bells ring.
The crowd began to gather around 5 p.m.
I think it's great for the community.
It's beautiful. I haven't experienced a winter Christmas before.
Yeah, we got about 100 people, a little more than maybe. We usually get this kind of a crowd.
And as the sun went down, so did the temperature.
It's cold out here.
I was hoping it would be a little warmer.
But with the stage set and the singers in place.
My daughter's singing in the choir.
My granddaughter goes to St. Saviour's. Hearing them sing is beautiful.
Weeks of prep time.
We've been rehearsing for 2 weeks.
Were met with a dim discovery. The tree would not light up.
They said somebody took some of the lights out. There's a Grinch here someplace.
But despite the lack of lights, the celebration continued with the blessing of the creche and the choir from St. Saviour High School.
This is what Christmas is about. We can't take Christ out of Christmas. It is the day that Christ was born, that we remember that.
It really, reminds you of what Christmas is all about.
And even though the tree lights had to wait, Grand Army Plaza still served as a stage for the greatest story ever told.
This is one of the central parts of Brooklyn, central point that everybody passes.
It's very appropriate that there'd be a Christmas tree and nativity set here at this arch as a public testimony of the importance of this religious holiday.
In a winter wonderland. All right, guys, thank you so much.
Well, no official word yet on what caused the light outage, but we can tell you that the Nativity gets 24/7 police coverage from the NYPD, and crews are working to make sure the lights get fixed. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says a new bipartisan bill about criminal justice reform will hit the Senate floor. The First Step Act aims to reduce the number of people in the nation's crowded prisons by giving judges more discretion in sentencing offenders for nonviolent crimes and bolstering rehabilitation programs for former inmates. Catholic leaders and President Trump backed the reforms. Still to come on Currents News, on the feast day of Our Lady of Guadalupe, one man says the Virgin has a special message for family. And the Harlem Globetrotters traveled up to Washington to visit a very special grandma. The Bright Christmas campaign needs your help tonight. It's a great initiative run by the Tablet newspaper, and donations make Christmas a more joyous time for children in need. Write your checks to Bright Christmas and send them to 1712 10th Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11215. That address is also posted on our website, netny.tv/shows/currentsnews. Pope Francis this morning joining in the celebration of Our Lady of Guadalupe, greeting pilgrims from Latin America.
De modo especial, saludo a los latinoamericanos y a los mexicanos en este día. En este día de nuestra patrona, la Madre de Guadalupe.
The Holy Father added at his general audience that one should not be afraid to turn to God, childlike, and seek consolation during difficult moments. As Latin Americans around the world celebrate the feast day, one man says there is a message about family in the Virgin's eyes. Melissa Butts has that report.
The image of Our Lady of Guadalupe continues to raise questions from experts. It's seen in a tilma more than 500 years old, which hasn't worn out or lost its color. In addition, it has no traces of pigments or paints. One of the main experts on this cloak is Dr. Aste Tonsman. For years, he investigated the eyes of Our Lady. He realized that 13 figures are reflected and that 12 of them are in the 2 corneas.
The computer was a great help in this sense. One of the most important tests was to see if the images appeared in both eyes. In fact, all the images appear in both eyes in the same positions.
This Peruvian expert traced the figures of the corneas and saw a complete family. For this reason, he assures that the eyes have a message. They remind us of the importance of the family, formed by a father and a mother.
This triangle formed of love is very important. Our Lady is telling us that the figure of the father unites the family and brings the children together.
However, in that family nucleus, there are more figures besides the parents and children. In the background, there are 2 figures, which Dr. Aste Tonsman considers to be the grandparents.
I believe the message of the family is particularly relevant. We have discovered these hidden images right at the time when the family is under attack.
In Rome, Melissa Butts, Currents News.
Tonight, a heartwarming Christmas story. A 109-year-old woman and longtime school volunteer is ringing in the season with her favorite basketball team. Amy Aubert has more.
What's a party without a little laughter? You might better know Virginia McLaren as Grandma Virginia.
You a celebrity.
Today, the 109-year-old ringing in the holidays alongside her favorite team and the kids at Roots Public Charter School in Northwest.
I enjoy every bit of it.
These kids and this school have extra special meaning.
It's so good to see you. How you doing?
This is the very school where Grandma Virginia volunteered for more than 20 years.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it.
She's back, bringing smiles and helping to share a message against bullying.
Be sure to listen to Mother and Dad.
And for this party, for her favorite basketball team, she came with her own jingle.
Globetrotter's gonna shine today, the Globetrotter's gonna shine.
I said, how did you write that? Who wrote that? But she said she just remembers all the lyrics in her head.
I just thought about it, and I like them so much.
So much that she plans to watch them in action when they're in town.
We're gonna give everybody in here, all the kids, a ticket to our game the day after Christmas.
And now 109 cheering kids will be there too.
Oh, happy holidays to that amazing young lady. That was Amy Aubert reporting. And that is Currents News. I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you so much for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.